Hey guys, hope all is going well with you. It's Mr. Champion here, and we're starting our new unit on creating a republic. If you would, make sure you have your notes in front of you, ready to fill in the blanks. So let's look at the formation of our new republic. Your essential question: how did the United States govern themselves after the Declaration of Independence? There are a couple of things I want you to be able to do when you answer this question. I want you to explain why state governments wrote constitutions. Secondly, list the weaknesses of the Articles of Confederation. Third, describe the process the Articles created for admitting new states as we expand our territory past the Appalachians. And then fourth, explain why many Americans called for changes in the Articles as it was weak and did not work for the citizens. So let's look at state constitutions. Now, basically, a constitution is a document that sets out the laws, the principles, the organization, and the process of a government. And so now we see the governments starting to grow and expand and get more formal, and they create these constitutions. Now, there were two reasons why they made these constitutions. One was really to spell out the rights of the citizens, to let the citizens know what were their rights and what could they expect from their government. And then secondly, this is very important, especially early on in our republic or the establishment of our government, especially nationally, not so much locally, but nationally, was that they wanted to limit the power. Again, we just threw off the tyranny of King George in Great Britain, and in no way we want the government to have any kind of power that resembles that of King George. Virginia was the first to get a Bill of Rights. Later on, you're going to see we establish a National Bill of Rights that still exists today, and it's kind of modeled from the Virginia Bill of Rights and other documents as well, and Bill of Rights as well. So we are now establishing a loose confederation of states. Now, this loose confederation is known as the Articles of Confederation. Now, later on, next week, you're going to get to work on an acrostic to kind of help you understand it a little bit more and to show your understanding of what the Articles of Confederation are. But right now, I just give you an overview, okay? It's really hard for states to create constitutions. Again, they were reluctant to give up their power to the government. Few Americans saw themselves as one nation. Again, we have this idea of still sort of not so much sectionalism, but state by state, liking their freedoms, liking their economic abilities to trade with other nations, trade with other colonies, and so they didn't want to give up that freedom. Citizens felt loyalty just to their state. Again, if you were Virginian, you seen yourself as a Virginian, not so much as American. If you were a South Carolinian, you saw yourself as a South Carolinian. Again, remember, a lot of stuff is tied to economic power, freedom, and ability to control one's destiny. And then lastly, they feared replacing British rule with another strong government. And so, again, you'll see early on that the Articles didn't even have a president that existed or someone to kind of lead the charge. The Articles was first approved in 1777, so circle that on your notes. Important date to remember, Articles of Confederation created in 1777, again, toward the latter part of the Revolutionary War as it wrapped up. And what it did was created a loose alliance. And again, keep that in mind, very loose alliance. And because of all of the things I mentioned above, each state wanted to keep its power and its control of itself. So that's the Articles of Confederation. Now, under the Articles of Confederation, the central government had limited power. Now, it did have some power, but again, it was not effective, and it didn't allow for the change to come about that a localized government wanted. Congress could pass laws, but 9 out of the states had to approve of it. So think about it. If I were to ask you, what's your favorite color in the class? We'll get 25, 26 possible answers. Several of you would agree on one color. Several of you may not agree on one color. And so it's hard to even pass or approve something. Second, Congress could not regulate trade between states and foreign countries, and so each man set up its own deal that benefit its state or itself, as opposed to benefiting the entire nation. Under the Articles, you did not have the power to tax. You can propose a tax, but if the states didn't want to do it, they didn't have to participate in it. The Articles, as was said earlier, did not include a president, and it could not execute the laws that actually existed. And then it also didn't have a system of courts. You're going to see later on that skirmishes brew up about borders. Remember, we're expanding new territories. States are trying to expand their territories, and so as those skirmishes come up, there's no court system to work out those conflicts. And so literally you would have little battles that were going on between states to states and individuals as they had disputes. Foreign countries really took advantage of this, and not just in our trade, but even on American soil. Okay, Great Britain refused to give up or withdraw their troops in Ohio River Valley because, again, a lot of the commerce that went there and our inability really to protect that area or to enforce that the British leave. Spain closed its ports of New Orleans to American shipping. You remember, again, the Mississippi was a key part, and going down through there, that leading out to the Gulf, which eventually would lead to the Atlantic Ocean. And so that port where you had a lot of commerce taking place, the French also had a lot of trade going throughout that area, and so it became very detrimental to the American economy. And so the Articles did not help in enforcing any of that. The third thing I want to talk about is many new states. Again, we talked about the colonists now moving beyond the Appalachian Mountains. The Proclamation of 1763 is no longer in existence, and so you have settlement moving west. The first thing we want to look at is the Land Ordinance of 1785. Basically, it set up a system, and we're going to look again next week as we do a little map activity looking at the development of the Northwest Territory. In addition to that, you had the Northwest Ordinance. It set up the government for the Northwest Territory. And so the Land Ordinance gave you a system of how states would be admitted or would be set up. The Land Ordinance, basically how that area would be governed, or what will be the organization of how this take place. So let's look at what the Northwest Ordinance did. It guaranteed the basic rights of citizens. All right, so it spelled out the rights that they would have and guaranteed that they would have those. Okay, it outlawed slavery. Now this is big. Remember, slavery was an issue that was kind of shelved during the American Revolution. You had some states that wanted to get rid of it. Some states who relied on it, to South Carolina, North Carolina, they wanted to keep it. And so rather than causing us not to be able to unify at the Second Continental Congress, we decided to kind of table this idea of abolishing or dealing with slavery. And so this Northwest Ordinance did allow for slavery to be outlawed. And then third, in order to be admitted, you had to a new state, you had to reach a population around 60,000 or so people in order to be considered your own state there. Now, some of the new states that came into existence during the Northwest Ordinance was Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, Michigan, and Wisconsin were created in this particular area. So let's finish up with a call for change. All right, the Articles had some benefit, but overall the Articles was not beneficial. Okay, after the Revolution, the nation suffered an economic depression, and basically a time period when business and activity slowed, prices fell, and unemployment rose. Basically, that's the concept behind depression. During the Revolution, we saw farm products go up. It was great demand, again, needing food, needing farm products. And then we look at the middle colonies in the South, major farm areas, and produced a lot, not just for the Americans, but also for the British. Farmers borrowed money and during this time period, and they had to pay larger prices to pay back these debts. And so basically what you saw, that the need or demand goes down for these products, and then the prices fall, and then farmers no longer can pay for these actual loans. So when things are well and booming, farmers are able to meet their obligations. Things are now in a bad situation, so they're no longer able to meet their obligations. We're going to look later on, as I said, next week on Shays Rebellion. Basically, you had 1,000 farmers led by a man, Daniel Shay. He was in a position where he was going to lose his farm. He couldn't pay his debt, and it just appalled him that he had to seize or give up his property that he worked for. And so he galvanized a group of farmers. They got together, and they attacked the courthouse. And you saw this really scared and frustrated a lot of Americans. And they saw that the Articles of Confederation didn't work. It only benefited those that were wealthy, not the common man who fought for his country, who gave up his son, who lost generations in his family, but only to turn out that the freedom and liberties that he fought and desired were no longer existed under the Articles. And so they had to do something about this. And so later on we're going to see in our next section what they decided to do and how our founding fathers moved toward creating a new constitution. So now that we're done, I want you to review a video that I placed on Moodle for you. It's called The Articles of Confederation, kind of an overview of what we talked about in our lecture notes. Then I want you to complete your summary and your question sections of your notes in preparation for our discussions next week. Thanks, and I hope you got something out of our lecture.